Hi, this is Imrana Ali coming to you from Urban Living. Today's episode, we have two guests, Mr. Earl Weeks, a retired Marine, and Miss Marina Gilbert, a caretaker.
So, like even with slavery, when slavery ended and slaves were no longer working the plantations or whatever, the Mexicans do. That's where we get all our crops and stuff from. They work the jobs that the slaves no longer work, you know.
That's what,
So we're in this together. We don't see it yet. Once we start getting all together and saying, we got this in common, that in common, and we need to fight for all our rights, you know,
yeah, and that's what,
the
once
better.
once everyone knows the history, when the real history is taught and you understand the history, then that's when everybody can get together on one accord because we're all the same.
And that's what they're knocking down, where they're talking about not teaching black history. That's what it is because one day they're hoping that no one will talk about slavery.
and when you talk about history, you can't forget the caretaker role. Now you have, how many children do you have? You've always been a caretaker. That's how we started talking.
Yes,
But you,
I have two children. I have a son and a daughter. I have three grandchildren, two girls and one boy. And but all my life, from I know from five up, I can always remember kids being in my house with my mom, and and then neighbors saying, "Oh, Rena, can you babysit for me? We want to go out tonight." Just different occasions where I always was taking care of somebody's children. And I mean, some of these kids were 6 months old, and I wasn't that much older than they are. As I see them today, these same kids that I was taking care of, they're like, some of them may be 6 years younger than I am. Some may be a little less, and I'm looking at them like, oh my goodness. I say, honey, do you remember me? And I had to introduce myself to them, and I said, I used to take care of you when you were a baby. Like, two of the little kids were 6 months old, and her sister was a year old. And I used to, keep them on the weekend because their mom and dad worked. So my mom was home, but I was the main one doing most of the stuff. Feeding, changing hair, baths and all. So all my life I've been taking care of somebody, and not knowing why I was placed in this role, I later understood why. Because my mom died when I was very, very young. So she taught me a lot of stuff before she left the world. So I had my basis of caregiving then because I could take care of my whole family. That means laundry, that means cooking, cleaning. I just did not have the monetary part of it. But I have brothers. I had four brothers, and it's just me as a girl. But once my mom passed away, even while she was sick, I would come home on the weekend because I went to a boarding school. I would come home on the weekend and I would take care of her for the care. We had a nurse that came in during the week because you got a bunch of boys at home. They're going to school, so we had someone come in during the week. Weekends was my time. I did everything on the weekends, cook up all the meals for the week, wash all the clothes, make sure she's taken care of. Everything was taken care of with her. Then I would have to go to school on Sundays. So,
so you had to take care of your mom.
yeah, I took care of my mom on the weekends. So, uh, uh, as far as a childhood, growing up as a child, I really didn't have that luxury, and I guess that's why I'm so silly now. So I'm really silly, and I love having fun. I love laughing.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I still play kids games with my
How many siblings
grandkids.
did you have?
I had four brothers.
And you took care of all of them?
I took care of them, washing clothes, and my oldest brother was the one that usually did like the cleaning to make sure that everything was right.
Okay.
But that's the way we helped our mom. She already taught us what to do. My oldest brother, he used to do my hair. He used to, always make sure my hair was right.
Mm-hmm.
Always made sure when we walked out of the house, we had our breakfast, and make sure our clothes was right. We go to school and come back, we had a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the routine she taught us. When we come home from school, change your clothes, get your homework done. She'll have a snack there. You eat your snack while you're doing your homework. Once the homework was done, whatever housework you had to do, you get your housework done.
Mm-hmm.
Then dinner was started.
Mm-hmm.
So I would work in the kitchen with her, getting dinner and stuff started for the family. But I even had a group of older ladies in the neighborhood that didn't have anybody. I would always take care of their hair for them, make sure their hair was washed every 2 weeks and fixed every 2 weeks. So I had things to do with even with playing with my younger brother and my best friend. We had a foursome, and you didn't mess with the foursome. You mess with one of the foursomes, you had to mess with all of the foursomes.
Oh, okay.
So it was two Ronnies. We had Ronnie, and my brother was named Ronnie, and we had Mary Jane and myself, Marina. So it was like Marina and Mary Jane, Ronnie and Ronnie. You didn't mess with us. That was the crew. So they would always be waiting for me. You finished yet? You finished yet? I'm almost finished. So I could go outside and play for a little while. And then I would be called back in to, do whatever I needed to do. So, but once my mom got really bad, I just, I stayed at home for a little while. Matter of fact, I was taken out of school for a little while. I did homeschooling
Oh, okay.
for a little while. And then February 6th, I was going back to school. Like I said, I went to a boarding school. It was called South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind. So I went there during the week, and then on the weekends I come home. And
Let me ask you one question. The reason why I'm listening to you attentively about your caregiving role is because there's a tendency with the pro-life controversy was being what I'm noticing from it is a sense that um, in the black community that the black woman as a general proposition is losing her um, basically innate ability to want to care for the family. Everybody supposedly we're being seen as a lot more selfish,
yes,
a lot more materialistic, very very selfish, and so much so that a lot of us are losing our children to the government institutions. Lady was saying we have a zero mortality rate, and I find it to be very disheartening that here we made it from the Carolinas during the time of slavery. We were such a strong family unit in the midst of pure
chaos.
right. And now when we have so much and made so many headways, I mean, we almost look like a shell of a woman sometime to the world. Maybe not to. Is it true or is that just me inflating it? Are we? Because they said that the black woman has the highest incidence of all the illness with AIDS. We have a high incidence of women abortion and drug use, and that we're losing our children. It's almost a joke. I don't know if it's mainstream joke or not, but we may have been the great caretaker, but we aren't anymore. Is this fiction? Is this reality?
Uh, I think that it's determined by the generations. Now, in my generation, we were taught a whole different way than these people are taught today.
You think they're just? Do you think they love their? You think the black woman is still, the black family is still strong and ready to go, or are we on the ropes here?
I think we're on the ropes. Uh, Remember now, as a single black woman, we had to now get out and survive ourselves. Whereas maybe their mother didn't have to get out and survive because we always had a two-parent home. A lot of the women that I see today are single parents. So they're getting out. You don't know, once you're out of your house, you don't know what your kids are doing,
Uh,
you know, because there's only one person there now. So there's a move with the men that I can see. The move with the men is definitely on the ropes. They've moved out of their house. I've seen men that said, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. You got 5 kids and a wife, house, and a home, and you don't want to be in that situation
yeah,
anymore.
we're losing confidence in each other, and that's just totally unacceptable.
Yeah, so they're moving on to another family or single
To
woman
what?
that may have 2 kids, and they're taking care of those 2 kids, and you left your whole household.
Mm-hmm.
You left your responsibility as a man in another household to move on to a single woman
Mm-hmm.
that, where you thought the grass was a little bit greener and
Yes.
it was less responsibility.
Yes.
So
I,
I'm looking at both sides that's shucking on responsibility myself. Um, and I we think away, and they have their ways of thinking,
mm-hmm.
and they're thinking about survival. Whereas to um, when we were younger, and we had our homes. Like Earl came from a 2-parent home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I came from a 1-parent home.
Mm-hmm.
But you better believe that you had your grandmother, you had your grandfather, you had your aunts and uncle. They stronghold that household too because they helped the
Mm-hmm.
my mom, my great grandmother. They didn't play with us. If something went on that we got in trouble about,
Mm-hmm.
we were going to get in trouble with our mom first.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to tell the grandma. She was going to tell the granddaddy, the aunts, uncles, and you
Mm-hmm.
were going to get confronted by all those people.
Well, as a general proposition, I think Southerners are a little more family oriented than the Northerners. We have a lot going on up here that's, to distract us away from the family. But to the credit of the black community, I think it's something that America, as a general proposition, is going to have to ask because it's the family fight. As the story went was, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Um, we're here to create a more better union.
Yes.
And when I say that, some people, the racial, the bigots kind of smirk to themselves like, you weren't the one that were involved. But the fact of the matter is that America prided, that the old America and this new America prided herself on being a more better union. And that's a union between a man and woman and their children. And if that the enemy is going to attack you where they think you're
The
not paying
weakest.
attention at. If he destroys that union, that family union, which is the core of this civil society, then he can destroy the entire country.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like a king and a queen. If you take his queen, then it's checkmate. And that, I think to me, that's what I see the enemy doing. Not just in our community. They, like Wilson Good said, he fries some and he bake others. They're telling us one thing, and then they go to all the other community. They want, and that is how the Civil War was done. They destroyed the decency and the integrity and the moral of the individual, and then that's where the corruption and the
Yes.
decay come. And I don't know if America. I think America's getting blind. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Like listening to you talk, like one of the things I know, America, the government made it, like say if you live with your wife in public housing. So they make it easier if the man doesn't live there. You know, if the man is not with the woman, it's easier for the woman to get money. You know, the government, some of the government's actions push our people apart.
Yeah, I remember I was
You know.
practicing. I was practicing law one time, and I had a case. And after the case, the a judge got off to the bench, and he said that exact words to me. And to that, I didn't answer at the time. But when I was younger, my mother was on public assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad was in the military, and my uncle. We had other family members
Mm-hmm.
who, were there, but they weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and father had gotten separated, and then my mother tried. They didn't have deadbeat dads back then, and they didn't have you have to come to court.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother contacted his commander because my dad left. He left us. We had left Ohio, and then we were situated down the street.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up right down the street. I told the other people about 5 blocks this way, and we went there, and then he went over to Thailand, and for a while my dad sent money home,
Right.
and then they got on the outset, became estranged with each other, I guess through mail or whatever, and he wouldn't send any more money home. So my mother wrote a letter to the commander, and then my dad talked to his commander, and he still didn't send any money
Oh
home.
no.
Yeah, and so me and my mother, so it was bad, right? So the commander wasn't going to hold my dad's feet to the fire. He's not. So he didn't like the situation, whatever it is, the politics. So then my mother was with me now, and so when if she ever had a significant other or anything like that, she couldn't because he was getting welfare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she wouldn't. It was have to be. I mean, so how are we going to? How did we make it? Well, the upshot of the conversation is she didn't have her. She was a high school dropout, and she didn't have a degree, so she went to school and she got grants and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she got her GED, and then they helped her get her associates, and then got the grants. It's not like it was nowadays. Everything is on the internet. Nobody knew.
Right.
It was
You have
something
to
really
find
big.
the information.
Oh, but now they talk about it like like I mean, it's 300 million people here, and everybody has a degree now, so it's not such a big deal. But back then, it was that's how we survived. So I guess he was wondering, where did you come from? I've had people say that to me. How did you get here? My mother believed in education. She strongly believed that we did have a regiment, but I'm very different than you were, and that's why it's interesting. My mother had 3 children, but I was the only one at the house at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got all of her undivided attention.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but it was just me. It was just me. And she knew I would be lonely, and she ordered to compensate. She made friends for me outside in the community.
Really?
Yeah, she tried to be
Oh.
civically involved, and when she became civically involved, she'd
That-
screen them,
Okay.
and then that became my friend,
Mhm.
and that's where I went to church.
Okay.
Every night I had to be home before dark.
Exactly.
Play night did not necessarily come. There was not you didn't necessarily go outside and play, whether you had your play clothes on or not.
Mhm.
You had to finish it. We had a routine.
Right.
And I never had any children. I always wanted children,
Mhm.
but I never had. I always thought I was going to have. I had all these things, and one that I thought this man was going to have to be, but it didn't work out that way.
Mhm.
And I had the way that I wanted my child to be raised
Mhm.
because my mother scared me. She said, if you have children, you're going to raise them, not like other parents like I'm.
Not raising
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she told me you are going to raise them, and that was enough. I didn't. So she scared me. She scared me. She scared me. So I did not have. I can't do it because I'm going to get pregnant. My mother's not going to take care of it.
But that was a little bit of the intention too. A little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
To let you
At
know
least
that
later.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I didn't. So that I never developed the caretaker. I mean, I never were able to embellish in that role of myself as a caretaker. I find that the more successful women have. I don't. I mean, I don't want to remind myself of what I don't have because I had my career and I
You're
had a wonderful
blessed.
Right,
career.
right.
But it's just God works. My mother said God works in mysterious ways.
And he
He has
does.
wonders to
He
perform, and so I
does.
kind of laugh, to myself. But I'm just so at the other end of the spectrum from and that's. But I congratulate you
Thank you.
on your role, and it's never. I don't want to sound cliche as the hand that rocks the cradle. I don't want to say that,
Mm.
but women, I kind of like thought it was chauvinistic for a man to say that I want the woman to teach and I want her to be a nurturer. But now I thank him,
Yeah.
from the bottom of my heart. He was wise when I wasn't. It wasn't just he wanted to pigeonhole me as a teacher. He didn't want to sit me down.
That's the way you took it?
Yeah, hey, I want to do this. I don't want to say that. But now
You get it. You
yeah,
get
Yeah,
it.
I get it.
because there's two parts to it, and, I try to do, like with the grandchildren. It's my job to be hard. I don't want them to get all this soft, 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 because then when they get to the realistic part of the world, they can't handle it. So it's my job to help them make it through the tough part. I mean, that's the way I see it. They don't. Oh, Poppy, this city, the suburbs, this and that. No, if I don't teach you this stuff, you walk right into it and don't even
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
He used to teach them all how to walk, to walk these streets and to be aware of your surroundings. Because, kids are just walking and they're just mindlessly doing whatever the kids are doing. And, he gave them another aspect because we're from the South, even the little town I lived in what? In Harrisburg, we really just never been to the city. And been where we had to be aware of everything that's going on because if you don't, anything can be happening around you. And so things
Absolutely.
that he was teaching the granddaughters, you know, um, about
walking.
themselves,
Yeah.
being keeping themselves safe, even just in households with our family members, because
Right.
a lot of people are crazy now these days. They're just crazy, and they're doing stuff, and they're hurting our children because the children can't defend themselves. So I've always talked to even my children. I've talked to them. Just like I need to talk to them and tell them what's going on, even though and this like think about it when we were younger. We used to go over people's house, spend the night at neighbor's house, spend the night at this house, and you never had to worry about anything. They can't do that now. My granddaughter just didn't understand. Well, why can't I go to my friend's house and stay? And I would tell her, I said, I don't know the people that you're going to their house, honey. And we lived in a predominantly white area in Millersburg, and I was like, no, not my little black baby. You ain't hurt my baby. So she just didn't understand it, and I just had to break it down to her, honey. And I told her exactly why. I don't. I say now people can come to my house. It's a house of women, and we're here and we make ourselves known to people. A lot of people hide stuff. They have stuff going on that the public just don't know about. And I told her, I said, and you can't trust everybody, honey. You know, even though you go to a Christian school, doesn't mean that everybody there is Christian.
Well, I had my mother said she had a wonderful childhood and she tried to let me have a wonderful childhood. And my mother was a pleasant woman. She always smiled. I'm more like a little sourpuss, but I've learned to smile. But I wish the young people, I hope they do well,
Hmm.
I think instinct takes over and I hope they have, can solve the problems that's facing them today successfully, to the better of mankind. So that God loves them more than I ever could. But I tell you, they have a lot. It's a lot of beauty there and a lot of challenges.
It is.
Yeah.
It
A
is,
lot of
and there's a
challenges.
lot of obstacles in their way, and that's why I keep telling my granddaughter. I say, "You're 15 years old. You're going to be 16 in November." I say, "Honey, it's time for you to start getting your competitive side on, and let's get a little. You're beautiful. You are beautiful." I said, unless you're in the modeling business, and that's a hard business too. I said, you're going to have a hard time. You got to figure out what you want to do and get it and start working with it and run with it. I said, because your group, her age group right now, are the ones that's going to be coming up against a lot of government stuff hard in a little while, especially the females, to me. I see them being very competitive when it comes to politics, the female. But then I'm looking at our young black men that are becoming leaders in the community too. I was checking out a couple of groups on Facebook, and I was just like, now, these guys are ready. These guys are ready, and I just try to introduce my granddaughter to this type of environment, because don't think that somebody's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. I don't care how beautiful you are. You got to have something up here so that you can take care of yourself first and be able to live first yourself. And I say, and then when you get somebody else to be your partner, they can be your partner. And it's not that they're going to be your boss.
Speaking of taking care of yourself, I never really looked at it that I wanted someone to take care of me. But when I look at my mother met my dad. She didn't have she had she was didn't have a career, and then she had me. They were married, and then my dad, she went out, she sold everything she had in her piece. She told me she sold everything she had in her apartment and went off with this military man to Germany. What a fantastic idea for a career. What a leap in faith.
Hmm.
And she came back, in one piece. But I wouldn't recommend that for people today. My dad took care of my mom. My mom, I mean, she was totally at, he was in total control.
Hmm.
Here she was, a young black, she was a nice looking woman
Hmm.
with this little baby, and he was the true head of household in a land far away, in a language she didn't understand, among people that were not like she. Up in the mountains, they could see the Swiss Alps from the house.
Ooh,
So my
beautiful.
dad said he could see the Swiss Alps. So, but she missed home so much, and when she landed back in Philadelphia, she never left again.
She said, I'm never leaving again.
Yeah.